Okay. Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board. This is a joint convention of the Brookline Select Board and the Brookline School Committee to vote on a replacement on the school committee for the seat vacated by Sharon Abramovitz. The chair of this convention is David Perlman, who I will turn the meeting over to at this point. Mr. Perlman.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are indeed continuing the joint convention that initially convened on the 14th. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11, this joint convention is taking place in order to fill the vacancy left by Dr. Sharon Abramowitz, as mentioned by Mr. Green. At the first meeting of this joint convention, we had an opportunity to meet all 10 of the candidates who applied. We interviewed all 10 of the candidates. Each candidate had approximately 3 minutes to deliver an opening statement. Followed by the opening statement, each candidate received between 2 and 4 questions from members of the joint convention. So for following those interviews, we then had a bit of a discussion to provide our initial impressions of the different candidates, as well as to discuss some of the attributes that we are looking for in a new school committee member to fill the vacancy. We then rested on it for a few days, and here we are again to continue the discussion as well as take a roll call vote. The successful candidate needs to receive a minimum of 7 votes because there are 13 of us, and the statute requires majority support for the new candidate. So would anyone like to open up the discussion in terms of candidates or attributes? I'd like to give everyone an opportunity who last time perhaps didn't have a chance to fully flesh out their ideas, and then we can move on from there for a vote. Ms. Charlevsky.
Thank you. Last time I didn't say anything because I did want to think about it, but I have. I actually will be voting for Dimitri Anselm. I've known him. I knew him when he was at the high school, and I was on the school committee at that time. He's a very collaborative and intelligent man, and has the qualities that I think will make an excellent school committee member. His knowledge of education and his, both through being a parent and a teacher in Brookline, I think will serve us very well, along with his being a board member at a university. I think all those things really set him up to be able to hit the ground running as a school committee member.
Would anyone else like to speak?
David, I will. Suzanne. I too am voting for Dimitri Anselm. I think he will bring a voice that we need to have on the committee, a diverse voice, which will be good. His work professionally will add a lot and enhance our work here on the school committee, both his high school work, his administration work, and also the work he's been doing for about the last 20 years around professional development and looking at curriculum that looks at diverse views and points of view. And so I will be voting for Dimitri at this time.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, I'm inclined to vote for Mr. Anselm, but I just want to make a point that my list of excellent candidates includes 4 other candidates. I won't mention their names, but I expect that from those 4 others, we'll get some candidates for the 2 seats that will be open, I believe, on the school committee. And we're very lucky to be able to choose at the polls in May from incredibly talented and smart candidates to fill seats on the school committee. So, like I said, I'll probably vote for Mr. Anselm.
Anyone else? Mr. Van Scoyoc?
Yes, thank you. I was going to wait a bit and show deference as much as possible, all other things being equal, to the opinions of the school committee members in this. So I just want everyone to know that. By no means do I want to see the weight of this discussion taken up by the select board rather than the school committee. However, I did say in the prior meeting that I thought considerable weight should be given to, if we can, if we feel the person is otherwise fully qualified and in fact of excellent quality, to having someone who's a parent of children within the system on the school committee in this case. And for that reason, my vote is for Lisa Rodriguez. I think that her qualifications are outstanding. I thought she presented herself very well, in a way that you would find that would sort of meet your expectations of a school committee person. I felt Dimitri Anselm, in every respect, was just as qualified, presented well, had attributes that would be very, very welcome on the school committee and of great benefit to the school committee. But I'm going to give my vote to Lisa for the reason that I mentioned.
Anyone else like to speak? Ms. Scotto?
I will be voting for Mr. Anselm. He is a Brookline parent. If I recall correctly, he said he had 2 children at Brookline High School. He's also a former Brookline teacher, which I think adds a certain kind of experience to his qualifications. I like the fact that he works for Facing History. I think that's a very, very highly thought of nonprofit organization. He has lots of experience with online learning, and he clearly understands the importance of a curriculum that that looks at the modern world and some of its issues. Facing History is about history, but it's also about problems that the world has seen, that countries have seen. So I like that background. I also like the fact that he's a man. We have 2 men on the school committee, and we have, at this point, 6 women and 2 men. And I understand that equity has many ways to view it. And I think gender equity is very important, as well as all of the other kinds of equity that we would look at. So I am very enthusiastic about him. I think he will be a completely, I think he will fit in very well with this student, with this school committee, and will be very helpful to us as we move forward.
Anybody else? All right, do we have a motion to take a vote?
I move we vote.
Do we have a second? Ms. Scotto seconds, so we will now go to a roll call vote. Once again, before we go through that, I'm just going to list the 10 candidates. Mr. Dimitri Anselm, Dr. Natasha Archer Hartman, Dr. Stephen Ehrenberg, Dr. John Hermos, Dr. Yael Jaffe, Dr. Andre Kristoff, Ms. Rachel Levy Wexler, Dr. Joseph Riley, Ms. Lisa Rodriguez, and Dr. Sherry Simmons. So we will now begin to take the roll call. Ms. Charlepsky?
I vote for Dimitri Anselm.
Dr. Liu?
I vote for Mr. Anselm.
Ms. Nobrega?
I vote for Dimitri Anselm.
Ms. Scotto?
I vote for Mr. Anselm.
Ms. Wolf Didkoff?
I vote for Dimitri Anselm.
Ms. Fetterspiel?
I vote for Mr. Anselm.
And I also vote for Mr. Anselm.
Okay, I'll call.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll call the roll. The select board, Ms. Heller, Ms. Heller,
Robin, I think you have to unmute her.
Ms. Heller, are you there? Has she been unmuted?
Yeah. no.
I can't unmute her. I can ask her to unmute herself. So she's able to do that.
Okay,
We'll come back.
yeah, I'll come back. Is that you, Nancy? I guess not. Okay,
Okay.
Ms.
Bernard, I was just going to say for Nancy, if you're on a landline, you can press *6, and I believe that unmutes you.
Okay,
I think she's in the car, so.
Yeah, she
okay,
is.
okay. Moving on. Ms. Hamilton. Is Heather Hamilton still on?
No, she's
Okay.
not on.
Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you. Gladly cast my vote for Mr. Dimitri Anselm.
Okay, Mr. Van Scoya.
I am at this point, given the way that the vote is going, I'm going to also vote for Dimitri Anselm. I stated my preference for Lisa Rodriguez, and at the same time, I don't think it would serve her well or the purpose of this meeting well if I want this vote to be as unanimous as possible, and I'll vote for Dimitri Anselm gladly.
Okay.
I think he's a very qualified candidate.
Okay, Ms. Heller.
I'm back, yes. I'm apparently unmuted. I vote for Dimitri Anselm.
Okay, and I will vote for Dimitri Anselm also. But I do want to make note of the fact that Ms. Rodriguez has some experiences at Pine Manor College that we should try to find a way to sort of grab and use within our school system in terms of kids who are first-generation college and who struggle with academics. So I just want to make that for the record while voting for Mr. Anselm.
All right, and I see that Ms. Monopoly is now logged in. Ms. Monopoly, if you would like to cast your vote.
I'm also voting for Dr. Anselm, and I apologize for my late entry, and I'm not sure where the votes land for those who have voted ahead of me, but I feel very strongly that he has a skill set that will be very beneficial to the school committee, and he has a lot of experience that will help us.
Well, Ms. Monopoly, by a unanimous vote of 12-0, Mr. Dimitri Anselm is going to be our new school committee member. So congratulations, Mr. Anselm. And I also want to thank the other 9 candidates. The selection of Mr. Anselm by no means is an indictment against the rest of you. All of you were immensely qualified, had very impressive credentials, and we greatly appreciate your involvement in the town and your interest in the public school system.
And we hope that you express or carry out that interest by getting involved in the various activities around town where your particular skills and insights can be used for the benefit of the town and specifically the school system.
Ms. Wolf-Dickoff?
Thank you. I just want to underscore that and note that by my count, at least 2 and potentially 3 people who had applied to be caucused into the school committee and were not successful that first time were subsequently ran and were elected to school committee. So I hope that some number of the 9 will follow that path. And on that path, I also want to say that last time I had promised to reach out and try to recruit some of you for the remote learning task force. So just to know, all 9 of you will be receiving an email tomorrow from me asking if you are interested in serving in one of the multiple panels and volunteer capacities that we have for residents right now. So thank you all for applying, and we'll be in touch tomorrow.
And so if I could say, so Susan, you're right. I was one of those who applied in 2017, one of 14, and I was not appointed at that time, but I did run and then win in May. So I do encourage all of you to consider running. It's actually a lot more work, but it's all worth, I mean, the campaign itself, but it's all worth it. And so I do hope that you will consider doing that. And if not that, think of other ways that you can serve the community. I know many of you already are, certainly at your local schools, and it is so much appreciated. Thank you. Mr. Anselm, if you are listening, congratulations and welcome. And Robin Coyne will be in touch with you probably tomorrow. There's a whole list of things that she sends to you so that you know what's next. And we would look forward to seeing you at our next school committee meeting, which is next Thursday on the 24th at 6 o'clock. So pencil that in if you will, and we look forward to welcoming you on that date. Bernard, did you want to say something? Did I cut you off? I didn't mean to.
No, I finished what I wanted to say.
Okay. So
All right,
I think, yep, David.
The last piece of business we have then is we must have a motion to dissolve the joint convention and then a roll call vote to formally dissolve.
I move that we resolve the convention.
I will second.
All right, Ms. Charlevsky,
Yes.
Dr. Liu,
Yes.
Ms. Nobrega,
Yes.
Ms. Scotto,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf Didkoff,
Yes.
Ms. Monopoly,
Yes.
Ms. Fetterspiel.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Now we move to the select board.
Okay, Ms. Heller. Okay, Ms. Heller, could you unmute yourself? Ms. Hamilton. Okay, Ms. Heller?
Yes, I'm unmuted. You hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Okay, Ms.
Okay,
Hamilton looks like Heather Hamilton's no longer with us. Mr. Fernandez.
Aye.
Mr. Vanskoya.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That's the end.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you, David, for chairing. Thank you, Select Board, for joining us. I think we are staying on as a school committee. But Select Board, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, of course. But we certainly are not offended if you want to call in a night and do whatever else that you need to do. So thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, I believe we are going to go to an update on the fall reporting on the reopening of school. And Dr. Marini, you are on, so thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, this was an exciting couple of days in a whole bunch of different ways, but school was opening. You could feel it in the air, and the excitement was, it was palpable. I was able to go to the high school on the 15th to watch the orientation of the new freshman class, and they were actually hosted by members of the junior class, which was a wonderful sight to see. Students were out on the field, and Janaea Utaro and the freshman team deserve a lot of credit. They pulled it together beautifully, and they did a rolling orientation with the different students. It was exciting. The fences were lined with parents. The students had that freshman look in their eye, and they went on a tour of the buildings, and it was a very, very successful day for them. I also, on the 16th, and I want to really highlight Meg Massini, who's here, and she's going to give a brief little report because, as you may have read in the Globe, remote academies are incredibly difficult to get up and running. And Meg did yeoman's work, deserves a tremendous amount of credit, and the work is not done. She was backed up with Michelle Herman, who was with her every step of the way, and other administrators from across the district came and gathered to work with Meg as she brought the remote academy to life yesterday, and she'll speak to that. We had a bit of a rocky start there, and it's beginning to get some traction and moving forward. The excitement, I think, among the staff and the enthusiasm among the staff overshadows some of the difficulties, though those difficulties are real And we're contending with them, and Meg will speak to those in a moment. Meg, going to give you a minute to warm up to that. I did visit the K-8 schools, and I think we have some photographs actually, but I visited the K-8 schools, and it was amazing. In one school, I met with the counselor briefly, who was almost emotional as the little kids were coming in. It was a feeling of renewal that we always talk about in September, and it was real. I visited classes. I visited outdoors where students were having their snack and putting their masks on like pros and keeping them on, and without any hesitation or any difficulty. It was a very natural sort of movement. Students seemed to be happy. They were excited to be in school. I saw the first to return students who were busy at their computers. I had the opportunity actually to see a couple of the older students who were at the Runkle School, and that was fun to see as well. Everyone seemed to be very pleased to be back, and it just had the feeling of the opening of school with a sort of a strange overview of it's different, and everybody knows it's different, and everybody knows that together we can do this. They were embracing each other, and the spirits were, I would say, very high. And I got around to every school. Ended up, the last school I was at was the Baker School with Torrance Lewis, who surprised his staff at the end with some pizza. So they celebrated at the end as well. So while all of that was going on, Meg, if I could, well, maybe we should see some pictures first. I don't know, to put
I have them.
Do you have them, Erin?
I do have them.
Give us a visual of what it was like to be in the school.
Sure. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. And you can probably hear my toddler in the background. Sorry about that. First of all, we tried to take pictures. Obviously, we would love for you to see students' smiling faces, but we were only able to get consent from the Beep families for that. So this is why you're seeing either blurred photos or the back of students' heads in a lot of these pictures. But nonetheless, you get the sense of how the first day of school was going for these young kids who were either kindergarten kids or, like Dr. Marini said, the first to return students. So these are students at the Heath School. Obviously, you can see the distance between the spaces, and it looks like they're doing some reading activity with the teacher up in the front room. And on the left-hand side, you can see the paraprofessional too in the classroom working with an individual student. At the Lawrence School, here's an example of some outdoor activities or classrooms classes that students had. Again, sorry, the picture's a little blurry. We had to do that for privacy reasons, but you get a sense of how the school anticipates using some of their outdoor space and could continue to do so as the weather permits. At the Florida Rough and Ridley School, this is an example of one of their classrooms and how the desks are set up. I believe this is a kindergarten classroom here. And here's an example of some of the notices outside the Runkle School entry as students were walking in. A message there from one of the teachers as parents and students were coming into the building. Here is a peer school classroom. These are first to return students. Again, you can see the teacher up at the front and then the students with their Chromebooks at their desks. And then here's our Beep classroom. Again, we did get permission to show faces of these students, but you can see them, still on the carpet, but with their masks on and interacting with each other and with the teacher there. So those are just a few examples of some of our opening day experiences with our kids that were in the buildings.
Thank you, Erin. And the Remote Learning Academy is quite an effort to actually open entire K-8 school really from scratch is a Herculean task, and no one is better suited to pick up that task than Meg Massini. And I know, Meg, that you had some struggles along the way. So can you outline some of those for us and tell us what the status of the school is and how you're progressing?
Sure, I'm absolutely glad to. I don't have a toddler, but I have a Zoom bombing cat, so he may try to keep him off the screen here. I want to acknowledge that this week we started school, and it was not the kind of opening any of us wanted. Our staff met for the first time on Monday and planned Monday and Tuesday. And I want to just say that although this has been such a rocky start, I think for our staff members, it is also, I've seen over this past 3 days an incredible amount of hope and promise as we move forward this term with this remote learning academy. Our staff is starting to gel. They are amazing. They are very team oriented. And I, was asking them earlier, what do they think, how did this happen? Because it's really unusual for a group to come together and work together so quickly and so tightly. I think that part of this is that all of these staff members have a need to be in the remote learning academy. They are either personally, medically impacted or vulnerable, or their families are, and they are incredibly appreciative of this opportunity to continue to do what they love to do in these terrible circumstances that we're in right now. And so the staff member that I spoke with earlier said, this is just, it's a time where we know that we need to get this done, and we're going to do it, and we're going to keep working at it until it gets done. And I want to just highlight that the same staff member said, because parents know over the past, yesterday was particularly difficult because we had connectivity issues. We had a lot of things that I'll talk about in more detail in a moment, but parents were panicked because, we couldn't get the schedules out. We couldn't do a lot of things, but and so it was a very hectic day yesterday and a lot of concern. I sent out an update. Parents appreciated that. Today, it was much calmer. It was much more, things were settling in. There were still a lot of concerns, and I'll talk about those we need to address. But the same teacher I was speaking to said to me today, she was in her class and she had a connectivity issue with her laptop, and a parent texted her because he could see her online and said, I had the same thing happen. And he actually texted her the solution. And I just want to say that, and along with that, she said, I mentioned this before, this has brought us together in ways that we could never even imagine, with parents being partners in this work. So as concerned and upset as I think some parents, not all parents, but some parents have been, rightfully so, we also have had an incredible esprit de corps, like where people have come together to support our teachers. So I just want to say thank you, and continue on with my more formal report. So as you saw yesterday, or as the community, RLA community saw yesterday, we had some successes and some challenges. And I'll just highlight a few from yesterday, and then I'll really talk about what happened today. So what went well yesterday, each student was greeted by a teacher in all of their classes, and a sense of community has truly developed very quickly among teachers and staff members. And as a result, I think students and kids take their cues from us as adults. And our children are just, they're amazing. I was visiting 5th grade today, and just amazing group of young people. Many parents have provided positive feedback because, like our staff, they're so grateful to know that no matter what happens, they have this as an option while the pandemic is going on. And so some of the challenges, again, that we encountered yesterday were technology. Students and parents were not able to access instruction through the learning management systems that we used last spring because our schedule is not yet uploaded to Aspen. And so Seesaw, Google, and Canvas, which were the platforms we were using last spring, were not available. Despite the fact that we emailed out Google links, you know, that was also competing with emails coming from home schools because those students hadn't been removed from the homeschool roster yet. And so that was getting resolved. And then again, our staffing is very tricky right now. And I'll talk about that more with today's update. Communication was very hard too. Tuesday night was the first time that kindergarten families heard that how we were going to work with our kindergartners this week. And we received a particularly poignant letter from one of our own staff members whose child was starting remotely in RLA about the disappointment of not being able to start on Wednesday. She'd picked out an outfit and it was really, it was very difficult to read that because we know that was a huge disappointment and that was a communication issue. And again, links to classes were sent late in the evening and did not include all the necessary information. We quickly tried to resolve that. And this is an issue with Zoom in trying to maintain, an appropriate, secure learning environment. Students and parents had to use meeting ID numbers and passwords to get in, but we now have those that we're able to quickly share. And I had about, as opposed to yesterday, which was about 100 emails, today I had about 9 emails from parents, and I was able to quickly respond and get those addressed, and kids were able to get on successfully. So today, I'm going to move on today and say that what we're celebrating today and what continue to be challenges for us. So despite significant challenges to opening a new school, staff remains incredibly positive, upbeat, and focused on our children. They've just jumped right in, and they have, again, taken on our paraprofessionals, are true heroes, as our teachers are, because teachers are covering multiple classes, paraprofessionals are covering, and we're working with the needs of our kids as best we can while we finalize our staffing. Parents have reported positive classroom experiences and great appreciation for the Herculean efforts, Dr. Marie says it way better than I do, efforts of RLA teachers, staff members, and administration. I will say that, and I just want to share this, and it meant so much. I have been looking. We have a Facebook page. You know, you're legit in Brookline when you get on Facebook, and we are a legit school. We have a Facebook page, and our parents have been posting concerns, which have been super helpful for me because I get, very immediate, feedback on what is working and not for these particular parents, and also some really wonderful praise. And one of our teachers texted me this clip from Facebook saying, I normally don't go on Facebook, but I'm just so inspired that the parents are recognizing the hard work that we're all putting in. And so that meant a lot. And I just wanted to say that at 4:00 in the morning, the night before last, I received an email from a parent saying, I just want to send you this. And she sent me a virtual cup of hot chocolate and said, I wish, this could be a real cup of hot chocolate. My kids always do this for me. And I just want to say thank you. And I mean, I was so tired at that point, I kind of broke down into tears, but that sort of stuff is so amazing. And even with all the upset, I know that parents are upset because they love their children and we want the best for our children. And so, I know that anyway, so to move on, we've drastically reduced technical problems on Thursday, as evidenced by the reduction in my receiving emails asking for help. Unwavering support from the Office of Strategy and Performance. I mean, I have to give a special shout out to Joanne Shaughnessy and Charles Chang and Michael Chen and and Megan Gainey. They're just amazing. The Office of Student Services, particularly Melissa Devine and Nadine Mall. The Office of Teaching and Learning, particularly Scott Moore and Michelle Herman, who I would have been in dire straits without Michelle's support. The Office of Admin and Finance, Mary Ellen Norman and her team have been incredibly supportive. And also the Superintendent's Office, between Dr. Marini and our new HR Director, Joe Russo, who has been at my disposal, as well as Betsy Fitzpatrick, who coordinated our meet and greet on Wednesday, or rather Tuesday afternoon for our parents. They've been amazing. Our K-8 principals have been just, I mean, in the face of really challenging circumstances, having to give up their beloved staff, they've been amazing. Today I held a 5th grade parent listening session for parents to express concerns, for me to answer questions, and for them to share their experience of RLA thus far. And I gave a report to Dr. Marini about that with some of their concerns, because that is one of our grade levels that is half-staffed at this point. And our teachers have really worked hard to make it a meaningful week for these children. The 6th grade and 8th grade teams rolled out a landing page last night for our families to log on today and have the students navigate their middle school schedule. And I think that it has worked a lot better than yesterday. So those are my celebrations for today. And again, the challenges are some of the students are having a rocky start by not seeing familiar faces in their classes. Some of this is due to our scheduling and having to schedule students quickly and we're trying to cohort students in such a way that we meet their special education needs and their EL needs, and then we meet their peer needs. And so we're still working that out. I think it's a little bit tricky, but we're working it out. RLA is still understaffed. Our staff are balancing supporting multiple classrooms. I, as a principal, am really worried about sustainability. It's not sustainable for our staff members, absolutely not sustainable. They're working in very difficult circumstances right now, and they're doing beautifully. And I have not heard one complaint from any staff member. They've all dived in to a letter. Our full schedule is still in development, and our specials are scheduled asynchronously until RLA is fully staffed. I've asked the superintendent that RLA has, we don't have the capacity right now in the district to have our specials shared with other schools because they're stretched very thin. So we're going to be supporting our own specials at RLA, which is just as well, because when the students go back in hybrid, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to have it any other way. We don't have a secretary or an additional administrator, so I've been sort of filling those roles right now. And I kind of imagine it as a tennis game, and I'm in the front of a machine that is very slow at some points and then starts bullet firing off about 1,000 tennis balls. So my concern is always wanting to make sure that parents have an answer. And I cannot say right now with full confidence that I've answered every single email that I've received from a parent. I've tried very hard, but I cannot say that right now. Cross communication between homeschool and RLA to parents is confusing. And as I mentioned earlier, we had homeschool send out announcements of who their homeroom teacher would be at homeschool and then their schedule. And while we were simultaneously trying to communicate with our parents and children about their schedules. And part of the difficulty too is because our K-8s are already set up, even though they're operating in unusual circumstances, they were able to release teacher names last week. So I think there were some, there was some anticipation there from our parents, understandably. The volume of emails is really difficult for me to manage and troubleshoot in a timely manner. Until I get more staff on board, I really don't have time to think about ways of setting structures up to manage this. And 5th floor is extremely, as we all know, is down staff because there were significant cuts made last year. Everybody's working at 1,000%. And I'm just grateful that, again, Erin and her staff, Michelle and Scott, have just been outstanding. Scott and Bob Thomas have been online with parents. Scott spent 45 minutes on the phone yesterday with one of our parents trying to support her in navigating Zoom. And again, just amazing. So I just have one last update. And that is one of the things that we discovered through listening sessions yesterday and today with our kindergarten parents is that this model of educating young children is very challenging because kids are spending a lot of time in front of the screen. And despite the fact that we have some asynchronous opportunities for learning that our kindergarten team is working very hard to implement, our parents are saying, you know, even 3 hours with having the screen on is too much for our kids. And they can't imagine having a 6-hour experience in front of the screen for their children. It just is not, that's not going to work. So our kindergarten team and I met this afternoon, taking into consideration what our parents basically said across the board in these listening meetings. And we are developing a phased in approach to having our students get used to school. I mean, these children are experiencing school for the first time. School, if they weren't in BEEP last year prior to the pandemic, they're experiencing school like on TV, not in real life, meaning this is a different kind of reality. It's a, you know, the virtual reality. So what we're going to do next week is we will continue with our half-day schedule as part of the phased-in approach to experience experiencing eventually the full day of school. So we're carefully monitoring screen time for students. We'll be communicating with parents about the planned asynchronous activities that we're going to have because we want children to get outside for breaks. We want them to have healthy snacks, opportunities to rest, and also give our teachers who are going to get fatigued as well a time to step away to regenerate and come back fresh, especially because we don't have specials in place yet, which we know in Brookline are used to help teachers co-plan and to take care of their duties, as well as get a little bit of a break from being on in front of kids. I think it will benefit everyone. So that's my update. Those are my, I guess, stars, stairs, and what's going to be better tomorrow. And I thank you for the opportunity to present.
Okay, let me say, Meg, congratulations. You have been a real trooper, and we really, on a real personal level, appreciate all that you have done. And you're absolutely right that with people trying to provide as much support as possible, it's not enough. So, and we're committed to continue working with you and continue to provide the support because that's my responsibility. And you're in a sort of difficult situation in terms of all of that support. But know that we're pulling back all the shrouds and getting into as much as we can to provide you as much support and to be there with you, knowing that you are up quite late at night answering everybody's emails and your heart goes out to every one of those little kids. And when I read that email about that, the outfit, bought a new outfit to school and couldn't show up, just rip your heart out. So we know how hard you're working. And you need more support, and we need to be able to provide that support. It's only fair. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Dr. Marini.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well, Meg. I mean, usually when we start a new school, this is our 9th elementary K-8 school. Usually you have like a year, 2 years to know it's coming. So to put a school together in, you know what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, not even that, is extremely challenging. And you are doing it with such grace and such dedication. I do want to thank you. I know it's hard. I know we need to give you more support. And I know Dr. Marini is committed to doing that. But I just personally want to thank you. I know how difficult it is and how many sleepless nights you're going through. And I would say, please take care of yourself. It's really important Easy to say, hard to do, but please do, because the children are depending on you, but you need to be well yourself. So thank you for all that you're doing. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
I also want to thank Meg for all the really hard work that she's putting into this. And I know that she's putting tons and tons of time and effort into this. And there's still, you know, the next day, so many things that still need to be done. You know, we're hearing about needs of, you know, hiring and, you know, administrative support. So I guess my question is, as a school committee, what is it that we can do to support this work? What kinds of budget issues? What is it that we can do to support this process? Because it seems to me we are shorthanded and we need to do what we can to help our kids. And I think that means that we need more people working on this and we need more teachers. I think, I suspect that there will be, you know, additional hires not only in the unfilled positions that we may have for classroom teachers, but also in our specialists, it sounds like, because we definitely, I believe that we want to have, you know, live synchronous teaching for those students. And so my question, I guess, is to Megan, to Superintendent Marini, what are the action steps that school committee can take to support this work?
Well, right now, Mary Ellen and I were together this afternoon. The first thing we're doing is scrubbing through all of what we have, and we have been able to identify, we believe, 2 or 3 positions, and we haven't worked through all the schools yet. So the first thing we need to do is to see those areas in the school system that we can free up some staff. And we're going to be doing that tomorrow, so that there'll be no delay on this. And then should there be a need that goes beyond that, then I will be back to the committee to ask for some support on that. And there may be some financial support that's necessary. And you're absolutely right. This is much more my issue than Meg's, and I need to push on this. Meg's killing herself to do her work. I own this, and I need to step up to it. So we'll be doing that first. We've been doing it. Clearly, we've been doing it. Another group that Meg that should be recognized, Meg, are the coordinators.
Oh, yes.
Who have pulled together in an extraordinary way, writing schedules and moving people around. But this is much more my issue than Meg. So we will be putting all of our energy beyond what we already have into this, so that we can support. It's not just supporting Meg, which we love. We're going to support Meg, but it's these kids that are coming into the program. That's really what's driving us. So thank you, Jennifer. And you know, I'll be back shortly if we can't turn a significant corner tomorrow.
Can I just reply back to that and just ask, are there any decisions that you anticipate you might need to make, Jim, that you might need to see us in a few days, to whether it's a budget, hiring, money, anything that we maybe need to schedule, like another school committee meeting and put it on the books in case you need us? I'm just worried that I don't want anything that we might have to vote on or discuss be a delay in any sort of needs that you have in order to get things where they need to be.
Yeah, we could on that have to, it'd have to be the will of the committee, but we could schedule a post, because it takes 48 hours or whatever to post. So we could post as a sort of as a backup in the event that we have to come for a vote. But we're going to know that, I would expect we're going to know that tomorrow, whether we have internally, we have enough. Right now, Mary Ellen is working to try to reconcile. There's been so many people have moved around so much. So many people have moved around. Mary Ellen's trying to reconcile the staffing with the budget lines. And in doing that, it just takes time. She and I are meeting tomorrow morning, first thing. And this is obviously the agenda. And so, part of it is to reconcile those the budget with the staffing. But it may be, Jen, that we have to do that. So we could just post a meeting. We don't have to use it. But in the event that we need to have a vote that is timely like that, we could do that and to see where we stand. It's clearly it's an important time, and we can't just say it's going to work out. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. This is a triage situation here.
So I would just ask if the chair and vice chair could coordinate with Dr. Marini tomorrow and see if we need to schedule a meeting. I guess I will speak for myself as one member of a committee that I am more than willing to meet. I do think that, this will be a shorter meeting, but I don't think it's something that we can wait on. These kids need us to do this work.
Yes, Susan?
Yeah, so let me say a couple things first to Meg and then just to this last point. First of all, Meg, you have done a terrific job with communications. I mean, your positive attitude, your willingness to model nimbleness, your empathy has just been, it's been widely recognized, which is terrific. I've never seen more positive complaint emails than we've gotten this week from parents in the RLA. People are just so appreciative of you, but and the educators and the teachers who are really trying to do something that we've never done before. I do want to echo what Suzanne said, which is that, in the past, we've given a principal a full year unstaffed, and we've given that person time to build their team from the ground up, build their schedule, build their culture, get ready for opening day. And the people who've done that have, they've been wonderful educators. And I think 3 days has to be a new record. So I just want to say that what you're doing is just incredible. The other thing is that when we were budgeting to open a ninth school, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we added roughly $1 million or $1.5 million in terms of cost to open up that school. Now, to be fair, a fair number of those costs were things like food service, custodial, anyway, there are a variety of things that were related to the building operations itself, but it was not $1 million of the $1.5 million that was related to building operations. So I do want to just make sure that we are in the frenzy to get these things stood up in, at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just want to make sure that we are pausing and thinking about what it is that's really needed to make this successful, and make sure that we are not, starving the other K-8 buildings in the process, because they obviously have enough problems of their own, and they're going to have more problems when we work to build a hybrid model. So all of that said, this was, and I was going to say this for the liaison report, but this was a conversation that we spent about 2 hours on at the finance subcommittee meeting on Tuesday morning. And I think the upshot of that conversation was that first and foremost, we expect a request of more money. The numbers we've seen so far, and I'll speak for myself here, but the numbers we've seen so far are probably not sufficient given all of the things that are happening. For sure, I want to underscore Dr. Marini's rightful prioritization of mining the people we have and the funds we have to make sure that that's our first dollar and the town is our last dollar, because we're all mindful of the economic situation and really needing to be prudent. But at the same time, I think one thing that we talked a lot about was what is the educational model that we are asking to stand up, not only in the RLA, but also in our K-8 buildings. So for example, when we open a school in September, we basically know there's 1.5 guidance counselors, 2 guidance counselors, there's 3 kindergarten, 3 first grade, 3 second grade, 4 third grade, 3 sixth grade, whatever it is, we know what they are. There's a nurse, there's a secretary, there's a principal. Like, we know what that model looks like and rough ratios that go along with it, because we know how many, how it's working. I think the issue here for RLA is, if we've got a 3rd grade team and there are 19 3rd graders, in general, we don't have a para associated with 3rd grade classrooms. But if you've got 19 3rd graders on Zoom for a year, it's a really different thing. And so I want to underscore Jen's point, but I also want to make sure that we are sort of pausing at least long enough to think through what's really going to be different in this model and what we're going to need, because I think we are not going to be able to just pick up staff and add 2 people and we're good to go. And so I'm really grateful to hear sort of what Jim was saying. I know this work has been going on all along as well, so it's not new work, but just the importance of kind of making sure we understand how the educational model is going to work for RLA and hybrid, and so therefore what's different is X, Y, and Z, and therefore the new FTEs we need are. And you can kind of explain that to us, because without that, it's going to be hard for the town to understand. And I think people are ready. After multiple town school partnership meetings, people understand that there are going to be additional costs. So I think that's the good news. But I think we just need to be able to make the case in the way that Jim said. And I think that'll be really helpful, so people can really get their minds around what's different, why, and why this is a priority. So again, the good news is there are town reserve funds that we can't use all of them, but there are some funds that were put aside in the spring for unknowns, and so I think we just need to make this case. But all that said, we do have I think this is docketed, Suzanne and David, for next Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, but. At any rate, as we said, thank you for the incredible work you're doing. Thank you for your flexibility and your spirit and enthusiasm. I think that is making all the difference in the world. So thank you, Meg.
Susan, I just want to say just a very special thank you to the staff, because the reason this could come off the ground so quickly is because we have the best staff, and that's our staff in all of our buildings. I've already know I'm not going to want to give them up when this pandemic's over. I've enjoyed so much. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but it's like being in a MASH situation. Like we hit the ground running, like on day one. And when you go through something like this together, it brings you together in ways that you can't even imagine, I suppose. And they're the best. They really are. And I'm not saying we're not going to have difficult things ahead, but and that people aren't going to get upset and angry with one another, but we're communicating and we're trying to communicate. And I think that's key to all of this. I'll go back to what Jim told me when I first met him. He says, you might not always like what I have to say, but I want you to communicate with me. And that's sort of the way that I am with these folks, because if you can't communicate and be honest and tell, hey, this is going on, I need your support or whatever, but I just want to give a special shout out. So Susan, while I appreciate that, I have to say the only reason this is happening is because of the teachers, the staff members, our incredible special education staff, our guidance counselors that we're sharing with our K-8s, and the staff in central office. That's the only reason, seriously. So.
Okay, I think I cut out before. I'm so sorry. There's too much Zooming going on. Anyway, be it as it may. Jim, was there anything else you wanted to share with us about opening, anything we should know about, or?
Well, I would only say that the remote learning. I don't know whether anybody read the Globe this morning. The front page of the Globe talked about how these remote academies are struggling really across the state on a whole bunch of different levels. And I'm just thankful we have the staff that we have, truly. And when I met with the staff before the opening, the enthusiasm was, honestly, it was really unbelievable. And I was talking with them about, boy, we're not going to the moon, but this feels like a launch. And they said they wanted to be known as the Rockets. That's where they were coming from. So it was great. But I would say that the feeling around the school in terms of we're opening and we're coming back has been energizing. It has truly been energizing, and we learned a lot from what we're doing now. We learned a lot from planning for the kindergarten and the preschool and the first to return students. We learned a lot in terms of our own work around that. And we are planning, actually beginning tomorrow in the afternoon, we are beginning to look at the hybrid, and we're going to be planning this in a little bit of a different way in terms of all in coordinators, principals, central office people, all together, all planning it together, all in real time together. Because when we're planning something that none of us have ever done before, and if we're not in the same room doing it, then people have to make decisions. And in solving those issues, we then sometimes lose some of our communication. So learning from that, we're going to be together, and we're all going to bond. Before it's over, Meg, we're going to have a bonding party.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to be together as we do this, so that when we actually move to the hybrid model and begin to implement that, we're going to apply all that we've learned, and we're all going to be moving along in the same way. Because in some ways this has been very hard. In some ways it's been exhilarating. But school is open, and it feels good to the teachers. The response that we get from the staff at this point is, it's not normal by any stretch of the imagination, but it's beginning to feel that people are connected to people again, and that's sort of a special feeling. So we have a lot of work to do. And Meg, you are not out there alone. Meg, you are not out there alone. And as I say, I need to own this piece with you, and I will, as we go through. And hope springs eternal. It is September. School has started, and it's exciting to have people back. And a little old cliche here, but it really does make a difference. If we stay together, if we work together, if we can understand together, we will have a very good year. I can't wait for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is going to be a terrific celebration because all this will be behind us. But but really, it is September. School has started. All's right with the world. That's what I would say, Suzanne.
That's great, Jim. Thank you so much. Just for everyone to remember, this was not a scheduled school committee. This is an added addition. So we're going to make it a little shorter. I think, Jim, you're going to give us an update more on hybrid and kind of timelines next week when we meet on Thursday, if you can. No pressure, but if you can. I think that was how we scheduled it. And so if there's no other comments about this, we will move ahead. However, I see Mariah, so go right ahead, Mariah.
Thank you. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you for everything. Whoever it was who said it was you, Susan, right, about all the most positive complaining emails, and it was absolutely true. And the emails were really lovely, and they were respectful. And I think that's a reflection of what you have, given them, and they are giving that back. And so great job. And I just want to say, as a parent, all of the communications from the high school and from Pierce, where my middle kid is, it was great. And it was all just really hats off to everybody. We have so much work to do. And yet what happened so far really, at least went smoothly. Like what we were planning for happened. And so now we continue to plan, continue to move forward. I had one little question about the first returner experience. If there was just a little bit more that could be said about what that looks like, and how it's working so far in terms of who's in the classroom, and how other adults coming in is working, if there's anything that could be shared about that.
Well,
Jim, would you like me to share?
Sure.
Yeah, Mariah, this is Casey. So I would say all in all, first return was successful in that we were able to have staff come in and supervise students while they log on to remote learning. The difficulty that I heard from some principals was that you could have 8 students in a room, all in different homerooms following different remote learning schedules. And we would have, let's say, 2 staff members in that classroom, and not having headphones, and of course not having the schedules in front of them. It was a little harder to sort of monitor what the students are doing and support them in the moment. I think these are, the details that we have to continue to work through as the staff members get to know the kids and get their schedules. I think it'll go smoother. I do think that a lot of the schedules are predicated upon there being tents at each of the schools, because they do plan on using those tents for the first to return group, just given how big they are at each school, to eat lunch and have snack outside and to take their mask breaks outside. So there's a little bit of concern for when and if it rains, you know, in the next few weeks. And then logistically, I think for principals, they're already thinking when we start bringing back the hybrid group, it's just a lot more puzzle pieces to move around in terms of what classrooms they will have to move to. Some of them are using first grade classrooms, for example, for the first to return group. So it's a work in progress as we go every day. And we are tight on staff. So it's for sure not, we don't have extra staff to sort of supervise those groups right now.
Other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, seeing none, we're going to new business. Helen, did you have some new business for us?
Yes, I do. I have two short pieces. One is more informational. As some of you may remember, we voted that Zoftics could use the space next to the Ridley School for outdoor dining until September 20th. I was contacted by them and asked if we might be able to extend. I was able to send an email and got an amazing email back right away from Jen, which was wonderful, saying yes, it would be fine till the end of September at least. So that's moving forward. It's more an FYI for everybody that it works for the school and it'll definitely work for them. The second piece is something that I wanted to let people know as your EDCO liaison, that Nadine Ekstrom has decided to resign from EDCO. And we had a meeting this morning. The board met to go over many things, but in addition, there was the discussion of having a transition committee that will look for somebody to replace her, possibly an interim. There's been some people who've had interest already to replace her. And she will be there until the 1st of November. So I wanted the committee to know this. Basically, I was quite disappointed.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate all the work you did for.
More to come.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to, we're now going to propose executive session. So again, this was not a full-blown school committee meeting. It was specifically set up to fill the vacancy on our school committee, and as long as we're here, we decide we do some of this business, but it is a shorter night than usual for us, which I think is just fine for many people. So I would like to move to meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, for purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Brookline Educators Union, BEU, Unit A, Unit B, and paraprofessionals, and with AFSCME, School Food Services employees, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Do I have a second to the motion? Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Mariah. And we have a roll call vote on that. Helen?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Mariah?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Megan's already left, so that's good. I didn't want her to have to hang around. And we will not be coming back to open session when we are done. So I will see you all on the other side, as we say, in the Zoom link. Thank you.